But so when Black Francis sings, he has like about three or four different voices, and one of them is this weird preacher voice, and one's this wailing fucking caveman freak, and there's another where he's kind of almost like a lounge lizard doing a kind of rocking, and this is that sort of voice, and I really like it. Hey everybody, and welcome to another episode of That's Audiophiles. My name's John. His name is Andy.
Yep.
Free, that's all that she could bleed. That's why she'll never stay. White, but naked in the night and looking for some play. More on that later. Bandy, what have you got for us today?
I got a band that I want you to check out. I don't think you're familiar with them, but you can correct me if I'm wrong. The band is called the Orwells.
Don't believe I am familiar with them, no, but I approve of the name.
Yeah,
Of the writer,
exactly.
George.
Yep, you got it. And the track by them that I would like you to listen to, there are a few, but the one that I settled on, is a track called Heavy Head.
Okay.
So please go off, give it a listen, and come back and let me know what you think, my friend.
Will do. Hold on, I can't take a minute. But yeah, that's a good start. I was just thinking as the starts off like strum, and then this second guitar comes in with this sort of wailing car alarm sort of sound, really nice. I think this sounds familiar. And then the guy starts singing, and yeah, it sounds to me like straight out of it could be lifted out of a Frank Black sort of catalogue. I'm not sure which, because that second guitar, that sounds very much sort of like the sort of thing that Joey Santiago would do, and he did play with him on and off for his career. But it sounds like early Frank Black solo stuff, and the voice as well. I think it's the way he said "sound," just sounded like Frank Black when he's not screaming or being really creepy. Is that sort of rocking type? How you put to it, but yeah. Interesting. Instantly like this. Oh, 2 minutes 54. I think we're going back. Yes, we are. Jump.
And when they bark and they don't make a sound, this whole generation don't make a.
That's nice.
In every world, there's a dog looking for.
Just to say, I was thinking some of the lyrics are quite interesting. Something about duct tape and a white van and a bag over the head. So yeah, clearly disturbing territory, which is all good. He went through. It was interesting. Sort of the guitars just had the second guitar, I call it the Santiago guitar, just had this little sort of brief flourishes of like Roman candles firing off across the night sky. But the rest of the time, the rhythm section was just like crouching down, and I think a bit of a chugging as well, which is nice. Which then led into, I guess, this nice twangy sort of riff for a couple of bars, which is, I guess, the pre-chorus, and we're into the chorus now. So it's also, it's nothing groundbreaking or whatever, but it's all very nice, and it feels a bit sort of gritty and a bit sort of CD. Yeah, tick tick. So what is this doing? Is I only notice with the chorus back comes the car alarm sort of sound as well. So about there.
In every world, there's a dog looking for revenge. So take me to the desert and chop off my heavy, heavy head. Put it in a Easter basket and place it down upon my mama's bed.
Easter basket.
My heavy, heavy head. Dry mouth in the hot white sand, on the way to the promised land. Did you cross that man? Did you pay that man? I get this feeling when you're not around, tied up on the natives' ground. And when they bark, yeah, they don't make a sound. This old generation don't make a.
Nice. We're 3/4 the way through. 2/3, sorry, I can't count. Yeah, so back in the second verse, started with the same line of thing about the dry mouth and the hot white sound, but then it changed and it really dropped down, so it was just bass and drums, really nice. And then in came the guitar, which makes it sound even better, that sort of little sort of sparks. And then we got this horrible sort of childish response vocals to his line, something about shouldn't cross the man, got to pay the man or something. I don't know if it's supposed to be quirky or whatever, but yeah, I'm fond of that. But yeah, there's really nice twanging riffs that come back in. Yeah, it's really quite pleasant. And I like the way, I think it did it in the verse before, but I didn't really notice the way it sort of leaves it hanging lyrically. Something about whole generation doesn't make a, and then that sort of twangy riff comes into almost ... replace whatever lyrics you're thinking of. It's just a nice touch.
Tied up on the natives' ground. And when they bark, yeah, they don't make a sound. This old generation don't make a. In every world, there's a dog looking for revenge. So take me to the desert and chop off my heavy, heavy head. Put it in an Easter basket and place it down upon my mama's bed. My heavy, heavy head.
Just thought it for the end. Yeah, I enjoyed that. I liked the way you tried to sort of go for it for the last line there. It wasn't quite a Black Francis scream. Frank Black, sorry, whatever. Yeah, this had all the sort of, I mean, it wasn't a music at all, but it just clearly sounded to me like it was influenced by it. And it was quite enjoyable. Lots of really strange imagery. Something about chopping his head off and putting it in an Easter basket and then put it on his mum's bed. I mean, these are all classic sort of very strange and uncomfortable imagery, the sort of thing that Black Francis, particularly in the Pixies, would go on about. Yeah. Um, but yeah, it has that lovely tone to it that's kind of a little bit seedy. Um, yeah, nice. This really short song, but hugely enjoyable. I wonder if this is indicative of their overall sound. To find that out and much more besides, we need to go back and chat with Andy. So let's do that right now.
All right, I see you've returned from the hot white sand. What did you make of the Orwells track, Heavy Head?
So, short little do this one. Certainly
Yeah.
wasn't 12 and a half minutes of Afrobeat, I'll tell you that.
No, it certainly wasn't. Uh,
So, as a result, I don't have, swathes of notes on this, but it was really interesting. So, starts off strum, strum, alarm, siren, wail. This is starting to sound very familiar sort of framework. I'm thinking to myself, surely it isn't. Could it be? And then the vocals kick in with dry mouth and the hot white sand, and it's there. So I get the chance to mention the band. I always try and mention whenever I can. But this isn't Pixies, but it is solo era Frank Black as opposed to latter Black Francis. I mean, there's lots of things in it, that sort of framework, that sort of strumming, and then in coming the sonics. But I think it was the twang on sound that kind of like really hit it for me. When Black Francis, I hate calling him Frank Black, but so when Black Francis sings, he has like about 3 or 4 different voices. And one of them is this weird preacher voice, and one's this wailing fucking caveman freak. And there's another where he's kind of almost like a lounge lizard doing a kind of rocking, and this is that sort of voice, and I really like it. So I'm trying to pinpoint in my mind whereabouts in his career this is. I think it's kind of early solo, sort of teenage of the year, mixed in with a little bit of the stuff he did when he had the Catholics backing him. Um, I sound like a real geek. I'm not a huge fan of his solo stuff, but I've got it. Of course, I have. And when Joey Santiano played them as well. That so if you say the first guitar is the strumming, and then which would be Mr. Francis normally, and then that second guitar sonics coming in, they're very much from the Joey Santiago playbook, and they sound wonderful. So as I'm getting all this, I'm also hearing something about duct tape and a white van and a bag over the head. And yes, this disturbing sub imagery fits in perfectly with the sound, and I'm right at home. So back to the music. It's quite nice the way it goes because you get this initial sort of burst, and then as he starts singing, we're into the verse, and everything cools down, like sort of hot metal cooling, and you're left with just a few sort of sonic sprinkles of these blasts from the guitar. They're like Roman candles, just gently shooting across the evening vista of the songscape, as it were. But you also have behind that this sort of almost chained dog energy of the rhythm section and the other guitar, and it sort of prowls and it goes into some really nice chugging, which leads us towards the chorus. Just as we're about to get there, we get like a pre-chorus, which is this really nice twangy riff that's kind of a bit sort of rocky, and I just found that really pleasant. And then we get to the chorus, and back comes the car alarm wailing from the second guitar. So sort of, that's what we just heard at the beginning. So I really like that. Appreciate it. It's really nice. And I'm catching some of the lyrics of the chorus. So I going off into the desert, a chop off his heavy, heavy head. Obviously, I can hear that. And then something about an Easter basket and put it on my mama's bed. I mean, yeah, this is definitely the sort of thing that could easily pass as Black Francis lyrics. It's quite bizarre. And, weird ancestral sort of imagery and, whatever's going on, and death and some sort of Bible shit as well, probably. I don't know what it means, but I like it. Pretty quick order, a couple of like weird refs, and then we're into the second verse. And it has the same opening line again about the sort of, the dry, hot sound, whatever it is I wrote down earlier. Dry mouth and the hot white sound, but then it changes. And Yeah, as it comes down, it really, really drops down to just the bass and the drums, which is really nice. You get this, um, the guitar sounds even better when they do this weird sort of burst. But then we also get a couple of lines with this kind of schoolyard type voice response, something about shouldn't cross the man and got to pay the
Hmm.
man. And I guess I was trying to sound quirky, but I wasn't overly keen on that. So the actual sound of the vocal sounded a bit sort of sing-songy, childishy, sort of na 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 na, not my thing. No, didn't spoil the song for me at all, but it's like, yeah, whatever. Um, I do like when we got to the end of the verse. He did this before, I believe, but I didn't really pick it up. But the last line of the verse hangs. So it's something about whole generation doesn't make a, and then the riff comes in. It's almost like putting their lips in something, and you're almost humming the riff because it's gonna. You expect more words, so it's a really clever way of doing it into that
Yeah.
pre-chorus riff. So I like, it's just a simple thing, but I really liked it. So we get the chorus again, and we get that lovely screeching guitar. And throughout, during the second chorus, the drummer sort of ups the ante by doing like a doubling up his beat for a part of it as well. And I like the way the singer goes full welly for the last line of heavy, heavy head. He sort of just screeches it, but it's not quite a Black Francis screech where you're like, blood curdling. But it gives it, is oomph to it, which I really like. And then we get a few more riffs and then some sort of reverberating nonsense, and then we're out. Really done under 3 minutes. So short song, really short. But I loved, for me, I picked up, so much the influence of Boston's Finest. And so it's an instant hit for me straight away,
Yeah.
obviously. But it was influence. It wasn't a rip-off. It wasn't trying to sound like them or anything. It just had a nice. So overall, it had a really nice. I mean, musically, it had like nice dynamics. It wasn't loud, quiet either, which again would have
Mm.
been really obvious to do. It just had these touches of it there. But it had a nice overall kind of seedy and slightly gritty feel to it as well. So which made it seem interesting, even if you're not catching all the words.
Yeah.
So yeah, I really like this, and I'm intrigued if this is their sort of a good indication of their sound or not.
Yeah.
So yeah, do tell me more.
It is actually, and God, you said a lot of things, namely the obvious, which I'm going to touch on as I go through the notes here. But you will find that they are big fans of a one Frank Black. So, and I know you don't like to refer to him as that, but
Yeah, no, fair enough.
yeah, yeah, yeah. But we'll get into that as we go over the notes. But yeah, they are. This is a good indication of their sound. I would say. Um, but yeah, the Orwells. They are an American rock band from Elmhurst, which is a suburb west of Chicago. The band's original lineup included Mario Cuomo on vocals, Dominique Corso on guitar, Matt O'Keefe on guitar and vocals, Grant Brenner on bass, and his brother Henry Brenner on drums. The Orwells formed when all the members attended York High School in Elmhurst, Illinois. The band was discovered in late 2011 by aquarium drunkard blogger Justin Gage, who signed them to his Autumn Tone label imprint. They graduated high school early in 2013 to pursue their musical career, so they were discovered obviously at a pretty young age. The Orwells released their debut album, Remember When, on August 7th of 2012. So, if you do the math there, they graduated high school in 2013, but their debut came out a year before that. So, pretty interesting stuff there. I can only imagine what it would be like to be a senior in high school knowing I had an album dropping. That would be pretty fucking awesome.
There's a couple of instances of that in this country. I mean, I'm not 100%, a fan or an aficionado, but I believe Genesis, when they first brought their stuff out, I
Uh,
think they were still at public school at Charterhouse, I think it's called. Yeah.
yeah,
I think so. But definitely there was a band, maybe late 90s or early noughties called Ash, and they were still at school when their first album hit. And
yeah,
it's like guitar-y stuff, and they were universally hated because they were so young and talented. You know, it's that sort of
Yeah.
bitterness comes through
Jealousy
for
is what it
everybody.
sounds like, right?
Yeah, exactly. But anyway, sorry.
Yeah, no worries.
No,
So
I
yeah,
was just, yeah, you can imagine how much that would have hit for them. It's like,
oh
wow,
my
this is
God.
easy.
Yeah,
This is
yeah.
easy. Yeah.
Yep, that's awesome. It's just like it's like hitting oil, you know what I mean? Like I don't have to go to college now. All that shit's out the window. Like it's like I can be a
Yeah.
rock star immediately. Uh, so yeah, they released their debut album on August 7th of 2012, and they were named as one of the overlooked artists of that year by MTV's annual list. On November 5th of 2013, the Orwells appeared on Later with Jules Holland. And later that month, Arctic Monkeys announced that the Orwells would be their support at 9 American concerts in January and February of 2014. So, God, I mean, they wrap up school in 2013, then they're flying over to England to be on one of the best, venues
Yeah.
or
They don't
vehicles.
take any mugs on that show. I mean,
No.
yeah.
And then they're touring with one of the country's biggest
Yeah.
acts at the time for sure. So it's just really incredible shit. Um, so yeah, their sophomore album, Disgraceland, was released on June 3rd, 2014, and the album includes singles such as Who Needs You and Dirty Sheets. The song Who Needs You was featured on the August 6th, 2013 episode of NPR's All Songs Considered. Co-host Bob Boylan said, "You can't say the Orwells without saying young," and called the song his summer anthem. The Orwells performed that song on the Late Show with David Letterman, January 15th of 2014, and it really was one of the notorious or most popular live performances, certainly post 2000 on the Letterman show. Their performance was enthusiastically received, so much so that Letterman and the band, the television show's band, called for an encore after the performance. The band did not respond, though, partly because guitarist Matt O'Keefe had broken all of the strings on his guitar and physically could not play. After waiting for the Orwells, the house band reprised their song "Who Needs You" with Paul Schaefer parodying Mario Cuomo and laying on his back, writhing around as Cuomo had done in his performance of the song just minutes earlier. It's really quite funny and worth checking out. I'm actually contemplating bringing that one to the channel as maybe the next one, so don't go off and look for it just yet. The Orwells' third album, Terrible Human Beings, was released on February 17th, 2017, containing the singles "Buddy," "They Put a Body in the and "They Put a Body in the Bayou." The album's title was chosen because, according to the band members, back in Chicago, we do not have the best reputation around town, and we're not the most liked boys on the block, for whatever reason that might be. On August 29th, 2018, the Orwells announced that they had disbanded. In the days prior, sexual abuse allegations had been raised on Reddit and Twitter against Cuomo and the Brinner brothers. The Orwells issued a statement to Pace magazine denying the claims. I don't believe any formal charges were ever raised against them. Man, look, I'm always going to be behind whoever is, the alleged victim or the presumed victim, but all I'm going to say is 2016 to 2020 was a really odd time in this whole situation. So I don't know whether or not this actually occurred or what occurred, but for a moment they put the band on ice for obvious reasons. On July 15th, 2019, Mario Cuomo released the self-titled fourth studio album by the Orwells onto his YouTube channel with a statement reading, "Hey everybody, I cannot wait any longer for the record to be heard. Sorry it has taken so long, but it would have taken even longer if I didn't make the decision to self-release this album. Self-recorded, self-titled, self-released." The album's cover is blank and contains just the band's name and text reading, "We had an album cover we wanted to use, but after getting dropped by our label, we could no longer afford to use it. So instead, you can stare at this blank square." On March 1st, 2023, the Orwells announced their return with a double single, "Barfly Friendly Fire. The band released a statement saying, "Almost 5 years ago, we were falsely accused of inappropriate conduct by a group of people who we had never met. Their untrue but sensational sensational rumors led us to take a break to address the situation. We saw no choice but to take legal action and filed a business tort and defamation suit. We are satisfied with the progress in our case and will keep you posted." Matt O'Keefe did not return to the band, however, after they reformed, and has been replaced by their now guitarist Caleb Tucker. The track that we listened to today was featured on the aforementioned 2017 album Terrible Human Beings. Reviewing the album for Northern Transmission, Elijah Teed awarded the album an 8 out of 10 and wrote the following. Leaning heavily on crunchy guitar lines, clever choruses, and an omnipresent AABB rhyme scheme, Terrible Human Beings is an enjoyable slice of garage rock revival, thanks in no small part to the uniquely languid singing style of Mario Cuomo. The subject matter, peppered throughout the Orwells sophomore release, from masturbation to mass slaughter to a host of other things you shouldn't bring up with grandma, is fun where it could just as easily be uncomfortable. While songs like Buddy and Black Francis highlight Cuomo's penchant for sounding sassy without sounding snide, others, such as Ring Pop and Double Feature, give ample room for guitarist Dominic Corso to show off. Over at Pop Thruster, where they've collated a list of their editorial staff's top 1,000 albums of all time, they've ranked this album at number 333, and staff member Eric Berlin writes of it, "It's the perfect blend of hipster cool, rocking guitars, magnetically catchy hooks, and super catchy chorus. There's some Von Bondies and the Dandy Warhol vibes with some hints of the Smashing Pumpkins and the Rolling Stones, but really they're their own unique thing. I should add that there's one artist that much of Terrible Human Being reminds me of, and it should be noted, it's one of my favorite of all time, Frank Black." And as it turns out, there's a song called Black Francis, a stage and recording name that the Pixies alum also goes by at times, and it has the offbeat, rocking and swinging feel of Black at his loosest and most fun. And finally, Alex Hughes of Communicator reviewed the album and wrote this of it and the track. "Terrible Human Beings hooked me from start to finish. The album flows in a way that keeps the listener's attention, with each track fading perfectly into the next. Some songs that stood out the most to me were Black Francis, Heavy Head, and Double Feature. Heavy Head is a perfect example of the band writing mutilated pop songs, which is a term that they used in an interview to describe the songs on this album. So that's not a pejorative. The band took what would appear to some as simple chord progression and a two-note riff, and turned it into a beautiful mess of distortion and grit," which is a word that you actually used. While some could argue the narrative sense of Heavy Head is similar to some of the Orwell's past work, such as Norman and Hallway Homicide, the music behind the lyrics has taken a huge step up to meet the menacing tone of this story. So let's jump into these lyrics. Also, by the way, before I do that, you're clearly spot on with the, allusion, or the, you picking up the influence of a one Black Francis throughout the track. So kudos to you, John. It doesn't surprise me in the least. I was actually kind of like hoping you would pick that out. So yes, these lyrics: dry mouthed in the hot white sand, duct taped in a big white van, put a bag over their heads, cut a hole when their face turns red. I got this feeling when you're not around, like a freight train running through town. And when they bark and it don't make a sound, the whole generation don't make, and every time they do that, I want to go sound, but they don't. In every wolf, there's a dog looking for revenge. So take me to the desert and chop off my heavy, heavy head. Put it in an Easter basket and place it down upon my mama's bed, my heavy, heavy head. Dry mouth in the hot white sand on the way to the promised land. Did you cross that man? You shouldn't cross that man. You seem to really love this part. Did you pay that man? You got to pay that man. I got this feeling when you're not around, tied up on the natives' ground. And when they bark at it, don't make a sound. This whole generation don't make a. In every wolf, there's a dog looking for revenge. So take me to the desert and chop off my heavy, heavy head. Put it in an Easter basket and place it down upon my mama's bed, my heavy, heavy head. So yeah, some disturbing lyrics about murder in the desert, with possibly some Oedipus Rexy type shit happening, or just
Yeah.
maybe he calls his girl his mama, which that doesn't mean that you're in the clear when we're done with his Oedipus Rex possibility, but still, maybe it's not as literal as his mother, but nonetheless, interesting lyrics, groove and tone. It's so easy to fall into this one, as it is with a lot of their other tracks. Kind of put off bringing the Orwells to the channel, and I'm glad that I decided to. And interestingly enough, very recently, like I think as of yesterday, as we're discussing this, Kevin M made a comment on one of our recent tracks and was like, "Oh, this sort of has the Orwells vibe to it." I'll be like, "God damn, Kevin, we're recording this tomorrow." So, good timing on his part, and good timing on our part too. I'm glad we finally got the Orwells to the channel. You gave them a listen. You picked up some of the obvious influence that I knew you'd dig because you're such a big Pixies fan. So, yeah, man, thanks for giving this thing a listen, John. I really appreciate your time,
My
brother.
pleasure.
Awesome.
Very good.
Awesome. I will bring some more to the channel, but perhaps influencing my decision could be you out there, the listening audience. If there is a track by them that you would like to see featured on the channel and John give a listen to, please drop it down in the comment field below, or any other suggestion you'd like us to check out. We add them to our ever-growing list and make it a point to try to hammer away at that with each of these Fridays on the horizon. So let your voice be heard. Drop it down in the comments field. Also, let us know what you picked up on. I think John, pointed out the obvious with the Pixies and Black Francis, but there was also an allusion to Smashing Pumpkins and some Rolling Stones type stuff on some of this album. So please let us know what maybe some of the influences you heard when you gave this song a listen. Also, while I have your attention, if you're still here, like, share, and subscribe if you'd be so inclined. It really does help us, and we really do appreciate it. And all that out of the way, hopefully John and I will catch all y'all in growing numbers on the next installment of the Audiophiles. We'll see you later, guys.